started talking, and his name came up, and she talked about what he taught her. And it was, don't just leave a splash of red or one mark, repeat patterns. And if you look at his work, there's repeating patterns. So again, it's him passing along his wisdom, his knowledge to me through other folks. So that's Kathleen Palmer.
Rick Singleton. I'm an artist from Detroit. I went to Wayne State, majored in painting, fine arts. So when I started out as a figure artist, and I started out primarily drawing people and like dancers and things like that. So about in 2010, I tried to branch out and I tried to start doing like some abstract work. So I was practicing with it, started doing it on paper first. Then I started messing around with wood, and I started doing color and shapes. So I heard about a show that was coming up called the Michigan Angle, and the juror was Charles. So I was like, this would be the perfect time to kind of try out and see if he likes the abstract work, because I've always been a fan of his. So I entered. It was a huge wood piece, like taller than me. And I entered it, and he liked it, and he accepted it into the show. So at the opening, I went to it, and he was like, "You should keep going with this abstract on the inside." So all that is inspired by Charles. So anything abstract you see is kind of inspired by him. Like I was kind of trying that out, and somebody like him said that I should keep going forward into it. And that kind of made me keep pushing forward. So.
Mr. McGee did not want to be pigeonholed, and so he always wanted his work to evolve, but his style still stayed, even though his work was evolving over time. And so for me, when I got here, I had learned, because I minored in studio art when I was an undergrad, and I had learned about Elizabeth Catlett, but it didn't stick with me until I came here, and I was talking to these collectors, and they had a piece of her. And I didn't realize that she was a printmaker. And so I saw this piece, and I was like, oh, it looks familiar. Like, oh, you know, Elizabeth Catlett. I was like, I think I may have. And so I looked her up, and it was a sharecropper. And I remember that piece in school, and I was like, well, you have an actual piece of hers in your collection. And then I saw more of a range of her printmaking. So Mr. McGee's like, don't be pigeonholed. They're showing me Elizabeth Catlett, and I'm inspired to be a printmaker. And so I decided I'm going to combine these two. I'm combining my drawing into this mixed media piece, and I ended up redoing the face of the bust that's in this piece, because it was originally, again, it was drawn. I made a lino cut of it, and I liked the lino cut more than the drawing. And then when I saw that, when I was looking at this, Mr. Harper had encouraged me to go back in because the drawing was kind of old way that I drew. And I decided that I was going to pick up a page out of Mr. McGee's playbook, and I'm going to combine my techniques, and I'm going to use this line work, and I'm going to have these different dimensions in this piece. And then this is where it ended, and it sold, so somebody liked it.
Woohoo!
And I loved it. So Mr. McGee, although I didn't get the opportunity of meeting him, his work is influencing the things that I do. His story, that it just sticks in my head. Don't be pigeonholed. And so I'm like, there is no limit. Like, let me continue to pursue whatever I'm interested in and see where it takes me. But also allow my style to continue to be in each piece as I grow. So,
art educator, DPS, Detroit Public Schools. I'm part of a group who started another school here called Nataki Taliba, and that's what brought me to Detroit. Art education and art. My piece that was inspired by Charles is called Futuristic Woman. This piece, I made it for this show. Do all kinds of things with objects that you see, from tennis rackets to molding things myself and using found objects. Now, I know that Charles didn't use found objects, but I was always influenced by him, and he's always been around me, even though I didn't know him. I found out one day driving down the street that he lived in my neighborhood. And how I found out, he had a nice little monumental sculpture in his front yard. And I said, wow, that's a Charles McGee, because I was used to him from the Noah's Ark situation, you know, down at the Institute of Arts. And I said, wow, Charles McGee lives in the neighborhood. You know, Charles is the people's artist. I mean, he was in the neighborhoods. His work monumental all over, from the work from Noah's Ark down at the Art Institute to Rosedale Park. I was there when he unveiled the sculpture there, not to mention the, you know, the Afro-American Museum downtown. So I was very familiar with Charles McGee, and I'd seen him. I never met him though in person. I know that he grew up sort of like me, guy in southern Ohio on a farm, and chasing bugs and with nature, you know. And he basically focused on the natural laws of nature, and you could see that in his work with the snakes and in the movement. Not to mention the principles and elements of design. You know, repetition is something that artists always do.
Like I was saying, because I wasn't part of the artist community, I didn't know who all the artists were, who are the collectors, who are the people who even had such a large impact on the city that I've, you know, been a part of my whole life. So with that, I got to do some research on them, and then I started to learn, you know, just how big of an impact that he had. And I've noticed the recurring themes in his work. A lot of people mentioned the unity or united we stand, freedom bound. Recurring themes that I kind of identified with were really people coming together. So actually I have two pieces. They're actually on this fence line here. One's called Come Together, and then I have a blue, black, and white one back here called Shared Destiny. Still inspired after that, okay, I have to do another piece because I'm looking at his work and I'm just seeing all, like everyone mentions the repeating patterns, and I was like, I gotta add even more patterns in. So I did a second piece, and I was blessed enough that Marta and April were saying, hey, just bring them both. And I was like, okay, all right. So that made me happy to see that they accepted both pieces. And I've just been very grateful that I've become part of this community, because before, when I wasn't doing work as frequent, my work was kind of staying the same. So since I've joined the Breakfast Club and gotten into this exhibit, I've been able to see my art evolve pretty quickly, actually. So this is actually the first exhibit I've been in, so I'm very happy about that. So, you know, thank you, Marta and April, for giving me the chance to be a part of this with so many amazing artists. I appreciate everybody else that's in this exhibit and throughout the whole Sacred Spaces tour that's going on right now. So, yeah, that's my story, and I had a lot of fun creating these pieces. So, and I believe they both sold. So.